Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News, and I'm Michael Miller. And our special guest is Dr. Raul Garcia, and he's from the wonderful state of Washington, and you are running for U.S. Senate for Washington. The big question is, why are you here in Miami? All right. Now, you can't get much farther than Miami, all the way down here, and all the way across the country, all right, to Washington. So what brings you here today?
Well, I grew up in Miami. You know, I went to Miami High, Stingarees for life, and went to the University of Miami, so I'm a proud graduate, Hurricane. And now with this opportunity to be your next U.S. Senator as well, I'm running in the state of Washington, but of course we have a lot of problems nationwide, and the U.S. Senate is national.
Yes.
So I have been to South Florida a couple of times. I got to say that the South Florida community has been very supportive of our campaign. And today I'm going to ask for the same support again to see if we could get over the finish line here November 5th and go to the Senate and bring solutions to the real problems that we have everywhere in the country. Now, I'm running for the state of Washington. We have very specific problems there that are bigger than in the rest of the country, but it does give us a perspective of what we need to do for change in this country right now that truly is so divided.
Let's talk about the Senate. Explain to us how many U.S. senators are, so people can put this into perspective, because sometimes people have no clue. But why don't you tell us how many there are?
So the Senate works a little different than the House and Congress. The Senate is statics where you have 2 senators from each state. So I am running from one of those positions in the state of Washington that gets to go to Washington, D.C. and represent my state, but really run the country as a cohesive group of 100 senators.
Yes, and it is a big deal. People that serve us, all right, I mean, the citizens of the country, we're counting on those 100 people that are there to make this all work. And so whether you're from Florida or Louisiana or California, Washington, that vote, when it's there, it's a vote. All right. And so when we need stuff down here in Florida, all right, help us out a little bit. All right. And there are a lot of things that affect us all right now. But I do want to go back to your medical career so far. So tell us what type of medicine you've been practicing.
So I've been an emergency physician for 26 years. I started out in New York City and moved out to Washington State, where I continue my career. I was very involved in the national medical profession, so they asked me if I would help them build a new medical school in Washington State, and this is how the opportunity came. And the first time I thought about it, I said, well, I don't know about Washington State. You know, what we knew was rain, right?
And trees.
And nature, and which is very positive, but I didn't know about the rain. And they said, no, you're moving to Yakima, which is eastern Washington. It's just like Vegas. The weather, anyway, it's very similar in eastern Washington. We get 300 days of sun a year. It's a high desert, and we actually live in nature in eastern Washington. There's a lot of outside activities.
So let's talk, and as an emergency room physician, you just don't know what's going to come through that door at any moment. What's that like for you there? Okay, you're treating a patient. It's like you got it under control. All right, they're about to be discharged. You're looking around. Everybody's good. And then you get the call. Okay, and here the paramedics come running in, if you will, with the patient. What triggers in your brain that you can process that and treat the patients?
It becomes muscle memory. You know, you've done it so many times. This is why I went into emergency medicine. I was choosing between emergency medicine, OBGYN, and surgery. And I chose emergency medicine because I thought anywhere in the world, even on vacation, if something happened to anybody, I would be able to know what to do. But the most important thing that relates to politics when coming from emergency medicine is that for 26 years, I've always treated who comes in that door. It doesn't matter who they are. It doesn't matter what their ideology is. It doesn't matter if they're a Democrat or a Republican. It doesn't matter what race. we have treated everybody the same. As a matter of fact, I remember one time in the Bronx, I treated a police officer that was shot and the criminal that shot him next to him in the same trauma bay that was shot by the police officer. And I never wavered as to, well, I have to choose one. No, we saved them both. So that transcends into, well, me teaching my kids to be accepting of others. And in politics, to be accepting of different ideologies. I had the honor of working for Bob Dole as an intern, and he was a great mentor. He was the one that seeded in me this dream of one day being in public service. And he was great at bringing different ideologies together to the table. And it created a fundamental belief in me that if you don't include the people that are being affected by a problem at the table, then your solution is faulty. So you have to bring people that are different from you in ideology to come up with a better solution.
So, and clearly, because of your training that you do every day and working in the hospital, every day it's a new experience in the sense that although it's a similar routine, there are people behind what's there. And that you have some people that are hysterical when they walk in screaming, and then you have the loved ones and you have all the trauma that goes there. And there are some constituents, whether they're citizens or whether they're on either side of the aisle. Why do you think that you are prepared to handle those type of events when people are like crazy trying to push their agenda and you got to vote my way or else, right? Tell us about how you're going to process that.
Well, I think that I'm probably better prepared than most people out there. You know, I have been trained to make decisions in seconds that affects people's lives. And my joke has been to others have said to me, well, are you nervous about being a U.S. Senator? I said, no, I'm going to have a few minutes to make a decision. I don't have to make a decision in seconds.
True.
And the process that you have to go through in the emergency department to get something done is one that doesn't take no for an answer, which is also very helpful in this political world that we have now, where we, I feel, have been complacent or relaxed in things that are significant to certain communities because it's okay to be complacent. And I'm just not wired that way. My job as your next United States Senator is to represent the will of the people, to fight every day for that will of the people, and not stop until the answer is yes. And I think that that's not the way that we are living these days in politics.
Certainly things are in an uproar, all right? Yeah. And we, again, as I mentioned earlier, hopefully in a month and a quarter, that things will be calmer, you know, for that. But tell us what some of the things you would like to get done in your first year as a U.S. Senator.
Well, I'd like to break the record for the most bills put forth as a junior senator coming into the government, because I feel that there's a lot to change. There's no bigger crisis in our streets right now than fentanyl. And that is completely related to my work as an emergency physician. I see 2 to 5 overdoses every shift that I work. Still today.
Say that again. 2 to 5 overdoses on fentanyl. Every shift.
Every shift. Yeah, and if you look at the statistics, a human being is dying in America every 4 minutes and 40 seconds. That's unacceptable. I mean, that's a war on our country. And it's so readily accessible in our streets. I mean, a tablet in where I live in Yakima in eastern Washington is 40 cents. And that is so significant because if you were addicted to cocaine, it took you probably about $200 a day to be strung out on that drug and continue your addiction every day. If you were strung out on heroin, you needed about $100 a day. But to be strung out on fentanyl, you need about $5. So you could be on it every day, and your life expectancy is less than 2 years.
If you're on fentanyl, you have a 2-year lifespan, more or less.
Yeah, and largely because you have no control group, no quality assurance in these clandestine labs on how to make these tablets only 25 micrograms of fentanyl. right? I mean,
The guy that makes it doesn't care very much.
They really don't. And if you have a tablet that's 2 milligrams, it could kill 10 people, right? And that's why we face in the emergency department. So I did something which I think was special in July. I did a walk in Washington State for fentanyl awareness and to honor everybody that had died of this senseless disease. 185 miles I walked in the heat from eastern Washington to Seattle.
Not only is he smart and good looking, he's fit, all right?
And the best part of the journey were people that joined me along the way, that told me the stories with fentanyl, people that had lost their daughters and neighbors and friends that are getting into this addiction and dying. And the conniving thing about fentanyl is that it really doesn't discriminate whether you're rich or poor, whether you're homeless or not. We have a large homeless problem in Washington State, but some of the people that approach me, some of the people that are actually now doing commercials for our campaign, were people that had regular families and went upstairs and found their loved one dead of this horrible addiction. So my solution, right? I've now told you the problem, and I feel that the things need to change to politicians that actually bring about solutions. We know what the problems are. And my solution is, according to results, something that has worked in the past. It did in Portugal in 2001. The Americans Against Fentanyl Act will give manslaughter charges to drug dealers that are dealing fentanyl and mandatory rehab to addicts. Involuntary mandatory rehab. I think one of the reasons that we lost, or while we were not so successful in the war on drugs in the 1980s, is that we criminalized addiction and we focused on criminalizing addiction, and we weren't harsh enough with the supplier, the dealers. And I think that that's where we need to concentrate, on being harsh with the supplier, so we eliminate that from the streets, and then open our hearts to the addiction world and say, we are going to make this mandatory, but look, we're going to make it comprehensive. That includes mental health. And
so many people think if you're an addict, it's just because you're just weak, right? And you should be able to just go on a diet and lose 50 pounds, right? Just stop. But it's not like that, is it?
I've had this discussion many times, and the last time I had this discussion was, we like our coffee in Washington State, right? Starbucks and all these great companies that have come out of there. And this gentleman argued with me that it was will, right? And I said, okay, well, how many cups of coffee do you drink in the morning? And he said 3.
Well, howdy doody.
And I said, okay, well, I will tell you medically that you don't need a single cup of coffee to wake up. The human being does not need coffee. You are doing it because your brain is saying, yeah, you want to do that. Well, multiply that times 100. When the fentanyl hits that center in your brain that gives you that euphoria that you're looking for, and you want it over and over again. And in the addiction brain, your brain is telling you to lie, cheat, and steal to get that next fix, or you will die. So everybody is going to commit crimes, lie, whatever they need to do to get the money to get that addiction to continue.
So when you get to Congress, how are you going to change this as a senator? How are you going to address this and get your colleagues to go, yes, let's buy into this so we can fix or manage this problem?
So I think that it'll be a great success to bring a scientist into politics, because I'm going to talk about the truth, which is rare these days, I know, in politicians. We were joking that politicians these days are okay with white lies, as long as it gets them elected. Well, when you talk about statistics, when you talk about truth, I was the only doctor in Washington that everyone said did not have to retract anything he said about COVID when we were going through the pandemic. And I was on the radio every week talking about it. Because once you are truthful and you come out with statistics, and sometimes you're going to upset one side, sometimes you're going to upset the other. But if I sit with my colleagues in Congress, in the Senate, and say, look, these are the statistics. According to results, the programs that we have right now, the harm reduction, the housing first, these things are not working. They're just enabling the problem to get bigger. We need a better solution. Once they buy into that, then I bring in the solution that worked in other parts of the world and say, why don't we try it here?
If you've ever been in mediation, you know that mediator is there trying to keep everybody calm so you can present the facts. And the facts is what most people can get into because we believe that that is the truth, and it pulls away from the emotional aspect of that. So, and I can see you leading your team in the ER, this very calm, and everybody knows what to do. They're looking at you for the leadership, and everybody sort of gets it. So I hope you do that when you get into Congress. So there's a 12-step program down the street from here. I never realized, number one, how important those were. Number two, how many people that I know are in or about to be in or have been in a 12-step program. One night they were giving out medallions. There were 175 people that attended. Holy moly. It's common for them to have 40 to 60 people at their meetings. And one of the things we've recognized is that it may not be in your family, but for sure it's in your neighbor's family.
Sure.
Right? So drug addiction is a massive problem, and I know the government has tried to punish the big pharmaceutical companies, and I hope they continue to punish them because somebody's got to supply it, and maybe we will all learn, from that. Can we talk about mental health?
Yeah.
So mental health is a big issue, gigantic. I think that even, Rosalind Carter, 25, 30 years ago, she kept pushing for it. We know that during the pandemic, there was a lot of problems that occurred there and still has occurred. And for people that don't believe in PTSD, we went through Hurricane Andrew here, and every time I talk about it, I get goosebumps.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So people that have mental issues, all right, in years past, we would sort of hide it. That's Uncle Joey. No, I think what has happened recently is it's come to the forefront. There'd be conversations. I know there's a new emergency number you can call. I don't want to say the wrong number, but there's a number that you can do that. And people are more at ease with it. There's a mental health that you can take off. And people sort of smile, but you know what? No, that's real. So what can you do in the Senate so we can, number one, have more conversations and spend more time and money in helping people that need it?
Yeah, Michael, you hit it on the nose, especially in ethnic cultures. Mental health is always a taboo topic. Oh, it's seen as weakness, right? And that's why it hasn't come to the forefront. And I think that the biggest thing in government, the biggest thing that government can do for the people is education. Everything comes down to education and communication. And what can we do in Congress? We have to be more aware, truly aware of the massive problem that we have in this country in mental health. I mean, in our state, in Washington State, we have a lot of homeless people. And I've always said that the only solution to the homeless issue is a triple play solution that starts with drug addiction rehabilitation, mental health, and then housing, in that order. Because if you don't take care of the root of the problem, then you can't have success. A lot of drug addiction leads to mental health, so that's why I would treat that first. But mental illness is rampant in our country, and we don't have enough resources. So we can provide incentives for more people to go into the mental health field, where it's greatly needed. It certainly is something that isn't on my platform, on my healthcare platform. Mental health is a big part of it. I know that as a physician, we've only talked about the things that are in my wheelhouse, but certainly as your next United States Senator, everything is fair game. So you could ask me about other issues. Mental health being paramount in finding a true solution, which we don't have right now. And I would start with more incentives for personnel to come to mental health. If we built 10 new hospitals, 10 new mental health hospitals in each state, it still wouldn't be enough.
Can we talk about gun control?
Yeah.
hot topic, and I don't know if anybody changes their mind wherever they are. I happen to be, I don't have a gun, right? But I know a lot of people that have guns.
Sure.
And when I go to synagogue, I hope every guy there has got a gun. I mean, I hate to say it like that, because we have a guard that sits out front, and you can see in some of these religious facilities they take, and boulders, and they put them outside so somebody can't drive their car through there. So there is the factor of being fearful of being shot, right? But yet the right for somebody to carry a gun. So what are your thoughts on gun control, and if it's broken, how do we fix it?
Yeah. Well, I was born in Cuba, and for those out there watching that don't know my story, I was born in Cuba, went to Spain, grew up in Miami, went to New York for medical school, and then ended up in Washington. Cuba it's a great example of what happens when you take gun rights away, right? No one could rebel in Cuba because they don't have weapons to rebel. And I think that our founding fathers created the Second Amendment to make sure that we had the defense necessary against a tyrannical government, right? And it says it as such. So I'm always going to defend the Second Amendment. Do I think that there is a lot of gun crime in our country? I do. Do I feel that we need better solutions? I do think that. But you look at statistics, again, coming from the scientific world into politics, 88.8% of gun crime in our country is by illegal weapons. What it tells me is that we are not executing or prosecuting our laws. If we could take care of that 88.8% from illegal weapons, we would have a much different story to talk about. I believe that our schools should be as safe as the TSA at the airport, okay? And I'm willing to sit down at the table with all the ideologies that get affected by this and come up with a solution that we're all comfortable with. A better solution so we can make sure that our kids are completely safe in school, and we could put that out of parents' minds.
And kids want to feel safe in school,
Yeah.
because that's the place you go and you're, okay, I'm good here. When I walk in the government building, they got all the wands and everything. Perfect. I'm good. All right. Perfect. All right.
Yeah.
And we want to feel comfortable and safe that the government is watching out, for us. And I'm not sure what we can do about if somebody's mentally ill, on drugs, and they take a gun out and they murder people.
And mental health is completely associated with that. When I talk about gun control, I talk about mental health being a big proponent of it, and making sure that the gun is in the right hands, right? If you're going to be a gun owner, let's have you be a responsible gun owner. So yes, those are the things that we could sit at the table and hash out and bring out a solution that I think that most Americans will be comfortable with.
Okay. You may have an opportunity to support Marco Rubio and supporting our Everglades. So if you have the opportunity, just remember, the Millers want you to help save the Everglades, all right? And take care of the pythons. Good luck with that. What about transportation? Tell us about that as far as what you might be able to do to improve public transportation.
Well, in our state, and I see it here as well, there's a lot of traffic, especially on the west coast of Washington. Here in Miami, it's ridiculous every day, right? So certainly we have to get better solutions at making sure that our people could get from point A to point B without so much hassle. And this is what I think the majority of us are trying to do. So I'm certainly in support of making it easier to get our lives accomplished every day through transportation. And Congress has a big say in that.
Yes. Because
of subsidies that we can bring to each state for good ideas. And this is where I differ from the present government that we have. I'd like to go in there and audit our federal spending what exactly are we spending money on? Okay, and I'm not talking about a huge bureaucratic wing of the government that's now coming to audit the government. No, I'm talking about the single accountant with a pencil behind his ear and glasses to sit there, look at our spending and say, this doesn't make sense. You're losing $100 million in this program that is ineffective. So what do? I want to do? I want to bring that $100 million back to the people, because Economics 101 tells us that if we have more money in our pockets, in our communities, we spend it, and that's how growth happens. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows that inflation happens by the government. It doesn't happen by the people. So in essence, yes, we could support every state in transportation. Let's bring out ideas that are effective. You know, in Seattle, for example, during the day, 3rd Avenue is only used by the buses, right? You cannot go on to 3rd Avenue, and that makes it easier for our citizens to go from point A to point B in public transportation without sitting there in traffic. We could have similar ideas here in Miami.
We got a couple minutes left. So Dr. Garcia, a couple things. When did you decide that you wanted to become a physician?
When I was walking towards kindergarten in Cuba, my neighbor said, what career are you starting today? And I said, I want to be a doctor.
You're how old is that?
5 years old. I was 5 years old in Cuba. And
you're one of the lucky people, all right, that knew early on that you wanted to do that. So when did you decide you wanted to say, I want to serve in a bigger way and I want to become a U.S. Senator?
Well, I want to add to being lucky. You know, I want you to know, Michael, that I love this country even before stepping foot on it. You know, in Cuba, we grew up with this love for this country where you could actually speak your mind, you could actually have the freedom to do any career you wanted. And to come here and to be able to live out my American dream and to become a physician and a medical leader in my profession, even have my own business, you know, a little farm boy from Pinal del Rio, Cuba. It's something great for me, and to have the honor to be able to pay back this country for everything that is done for me, and to make sure that those opportunities are there for my children is what drove me to this. And working for Bob Dole was when I first said, wow, I want to come back to D.C. I want to be a U.S. Senator. Of course, I ran for governor in 2020 unsuccessfully in Washington. We stayed involved and had this opportunity now. So we really want to win in November to show our state what the example of a U.S. Senator is, to represent the people and to bring solutions.
So Dr. Garcia, I'm sure there have been people that have encouraged you, that have been some mentors of yours. I'd like you, if you could, to look into the camera right over here and talk to them, whether they're with us or not, and thank them if you would like to.
There's been a couple of great mentors in the past. Of course, Bob Dole, who was the best at bringing people together and pushing solutions forward. Slade Gordon, who was a great senator in Washington State, brought a lot of great solutions to our people, and he was famous for going to meetings when Congress was over. He was already setting up the next meeting. I have had the honor to be mentored by Governor Dan Evans, who just died in Washington State at 98 years of age. Someone that was a pioneer in bringing community colleges to Washington, to bringing education forward, to protecting the environment in our state. So that trio of great mentors that are unfortunately no longer with me, I thank, and I want to thank the South Florida community for helping us in our campaign and supporting the little Cuban-American boy that came here and now has a chance to pay back this country for everything it's done for me. So for all of you out there, if you want to continue to support us, please go to our website, garcia4wa.com. That's FORWA.com. See our story, see our message. We feel is one of solutions, one of change, one of good change for our country, and one that I am sure that all of you will support.
Dr. Rudy Garcia, thank you so much for being here. I'm glad you shared that. Great opportunity for that. We're going to look right in the red camera, and we're going to say thanks for joining us. Remember, take care of yourself and your family. Have a good day.
Thank you so much.